Thanks for joining us here on the Bearcat Sports Network. It is time to talk men's bowling for 2016 and 17. We're joined by McKendree Director of Bowling, Brian O'Keefe. And Brian, just a little over 5 months ago, a big moment in the history of men's bowling. National champions at the IBC Team Championships. It was an event that really the Bearcats rolled through the preliminaries, had to battle their way through match play, and then found themselves in an 0-2 hole in a best-of-5 championship match. Take us through that championship match and kind of everything, the way it escalated from there, and what this really means for this McKendree bowling program.
Well, first of all, Scott, that sounds, it's like music to my ears here in National Champions. I really think it took a while for it to sink in that, wow, we actually did that. Sometime over the summer, I'm not sure when, that it finally started to sink in, like, holy cow. Maybe it was when I was traveling around during the summer with the ladies tour quite a bit and getting people coming up and saying congratulations, congratulations. I think that may have been when it finally set in. But yeah, it was a remarkable experience. The emotions of just that 2.5-hour television show. I think going into it, I think we were the favorites. We had more experience. We had people who had been on television before. But about an hour in, we're down 0-2, and that experience wasn't coming through. And it was like, wow, we looked like the team that was struggling a little bit to get our feet underneath us. But yeah, just an amazing experience. The fight, the will, the determination, just to do whatever it took to come back. We definitely had the talent to do it. It was just about if we're going to run out of time, or if the bowling gods were going to be on our side and let us catch momentum in a bottle, so to speak. And thankfully we did that, and we came back, and yeah, first national championship for the team.
It was nice in the fact that on that team, the group of 8 that bowled at the national championship, you had 3 seniors on that squad that had actually bowled for a national championship 3 years ago. Talk about what that meant going into that weekend.
Oh, without question. They had been there, done that before. They were very hungry to get back to that. The interesting thing, they did it all as freshmen. So, I think, for maybe a year or two after that it was just going to be easy. That as freshmen, hey, we made it to the national championship, finals, we're on television, this is great, it's going to be a every year type thing. And then they realized that it's not that easy. So when they got back there, just really hungry to finish the job this time. So the leadership from Riley Smith, Ryan Patterson, Sean Bybee, it was incredible. And then to have newcomers and the people that actually bowled on our television show that for that national championship, we had 4 sophomores in terms of eligibility and a senior. So we had the senior leadership, and then on the lanes we had some relatively inexperienced but underclassmen still. So
Underclassmen who still have competed on a national stage and a world stage as well. Talk about the experience those individuals gained, especially going through that process towards the national championship.
Well, anytime you can put yourself in that situation, good or bad, the result, whether you win or lose, you're still gaining valuable experience. As someone who was fortunate enough personally to be on television a few times, I've been on both sides of it, and the losing side feels bad, but it's definitely something you can take with you moving forward. Now, when you happen to win, it's the best of both worlds. You gain that experience, but you also get the feeling that, hey, it can work out, and we can end up coming out on top and taking home that Helmer Cup, which is what our goal was from the word go. So, going into this year, we just have a newfound confidence. But with that confidence comes we got a bullseye on our back. So it's going to be challenging, but we're looking forward to it.
I was going to say you're more the hunted now than the hunter, but still that hunger will be there in knowing this McKendree bowling program the way it has performed in the past. Talk about some of the key individuals coming back from last year and what you expect from them in 2016-17.
Well, like I mentioned on that television show, we had a number of sophomores eligibility-wise who had only played a few years. Greg Young, who was a member of our Junior Team USA team for 3 years. James Stanley, who has been the member of the Costa Rican national team for the last 8 years. So those two right there have world experience, and I think really just by example kind of led the way on that television show. They kind of bookended our lineup. James led off for us, and Greg was our anchor that kind of had to do all the dirty work when all the pressure was on. And then Billy Goodman, who's really kind of coming to his own here over the last year. As a freshman, he had tons of talent. wasn't quite as refined as he needed to be, but through his hard work and dedication has really turned into, not only a leader on the team, but really one of the best players in college.
Off the national championship, obviously a good recruiting class coming in, a solid recruiting class and a deep recruiting class. Let's talk about some of the newcomers.
Yeah, it's not going to make our job any easier. Coach Dennis and myself, all through this little preseason here of trying to evaluate the team and with their skill assessments and trying to see where people fall within the team. We have an incredibly deep team, I think even deeper than we were last year, and it wasn't an easy decision last year as to who was going to bowl for the varsity at certain events, and then especially come postseason time, who was going to be the 8 that took us to the national championship. But we have an incredible class that came in, a few standouts. We have a gentleman by the name of Brian Hanlon from South Carolina who's shown a lot here in this preseason. Charlie Reed, a left-hander from Texas. We have a transfer from Florida named Thomas Watson. Charlie and Thomas are going to be going to this first tournament with us here in Milwaukee this weekend. But I expect to see multiple of newcomers sort of take place on the varsity and compete on the varsity team throughout the course of the season. Our main goal is, winning regular season events is always great, but we want to win the last tournament of the year. So throughout the course of the year, we mix and match the lineups quite a bit to try and see, who works well together on the lanes, off the lanes, and give people the chance to kind of show what they're ready to bring to the program.
Obviously, yourself, head coach Dennis Knepper, getting early looks at this team. Practice has been underway for a couple of weeks. First tournament up in Wisconsin this weekend. Talk about the things you're looking for out of this team in 2016-17. Obviously, you said the goal to win a national championship, be competitive, but you also, early on, probably trying to get a feel for this team, trying to mesh newcomers and returners.
Yeah, that's a great point. Bowling's extremely unique. There's only a few sports like it, golf being one of them, where the majority of the time you're at a tournament, you're doing nothing but thinking. The actual skill of throwing a bowling ball down the lane takes about 3 seconds, but yet one team game alone takes about an hour to compete. So over the course of one game, you're bowling for about 45 seconds, but you're sitting and thinking and sort of communicating with your team for the remaining 59 minutes of that hour. So with that, the chemistry and team camaraderie is that much more important, because most of the time you just have time to think, whether it be bad thoughts or good thoughts. So really what the goal is for these first couple opening tournaments is to give people a look to see what they look like, see what teams sort of mesh together like you mentioned, and really just try and, obviously the main goal is to knock over as many pins as we can and come out on top, but if it doesn't end up that way, that it's definitely going to be a learning experience that we'll take to the next tournament and move forward from there.
And then the nice thing is you host 2 in-season tournaments once again, the National Collegiate Match Games in late November, and then the McKendree Baker Challenge in early February.
Yeah, those are great. Once again, bowling's unique in that we don't have just a match against one team per se. So we don't have a lot of home matches. Most of the time we're on the road and traveling and traveling 5, 6, 7, 8 hours down the road. So for those 2 host tournaments that we get, it's great for local friends and family to get to come out and support the Bearcats. Just all in all, it's a long-standing tradition here. That collegiate match games tournament has been going on since I bowled in college, and trust me, that was a long time ago. So it's great to see that continue on. McKendree took it over about 7 or 8 years ago and kind of took the lead as running that tournament. So it's great just to see the tradition of those college bowling tournaments live on here at McKendree.
Coach, it's hard to believe that the 2016-17 season is here. Brian O'Keefe, thanks for joining us. Good luck again as you get set to defend national championship.
Thank you, Scott.
Don't forget to follow McKendree Bowling, men's and women's bowling, as well as the rest of our intercollegiate programs on the official home of McKendree Athletics at mckbearcats.com.